don't know if anyone saw the movie Unsplash. The guy goes into the secluded area that is Bodus, and he goes and he just screams. There's ahava and there's yira, right? There's love and there's fear. And these are two ways of engaging with Hashem. And they're both important. And, they say that ahava is a higher level than yira, but you can't have one without the other. Because yira without ahava, so, okay, you have a fear of Hashem, but if you don't have a loving relationship with Hashem, that wears away at you. That's not healthy. You know what I mean? Ultimately, it leads to resentment. But love without fear is also problematic because then you don't have boundaries. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I spoke about in another one of the earlier classes was sort of the dichotomy between, don't be offended, the dichotomy between the Chasidim and those who opposed Hasidism. And I think if we look at these two worldviews, we would almost say like one was serve Hashem through yira, this awe and this respect of boundaries. And that maybe was like the Lithuanian approach, with the Misnagdim, that colder, rigid approach. You have to follow the letter of the law. And the Chasidim, who were much more, to be honest, certainly in the beginning, much more liberal in their practices. And I don't mean liberal like not caring about the Torah, chas v'shalom, but in other words, their emphasis was so much on love of Hashem and closeness with Hashem and what was called divekus with Hashem, this attachment to Hashem, sort of just soaring in the air inspiration, that the criticism of the Chasidim was that they set aside too much of the letter of the law because they engaged in practices which led them to this kind of euphoric feeling. So they changed a lot of the practices that were set in halacha. The example that I gave when I said this originally was the example of the only what I know from reading excerpts from the ban against Hasidism is criticized how they used to jump around and do somersaults during prayer. They moved wildly about the shul. It was like again, please forgive me, it was like I don't think they used this word, but almost the description of it sounds like it was like a circus in shul. People jumping all over the place, screaming, and, the Rav Nachman talks about hishtapchus hanefesh, the outpouring of the soul. I don't know if anyone saw the movie Unsplash. The guy goes into the secluded area that is Bodus, and he goes and he just screams, ah! Right? That was... I saw that. When I say I saw this, I knew of this happening when I lived in Yerushalayim. You would see Chasidim go into the forest, walk out into the forest. So what were they doing? They would go out just to be in complete seclusion, and they would just scream. They would just scream because they were connecting with Hashem. It was weird. It was bizarre. It wasn't within the bounds of normative Judaism, but it was encouraged and it was justified because it uplifted you and it made you feel connected. So why am I saying that? Because ahava, if you serve Hashem with ahava only and there's no yira, there's no boundary, so where does that lead to? Ultimately, that leads to a total abrogation of halacha, which is what the Misnagdim, the opponents of Hasidism, were concerned about, and that's why they opposed it so heavily, is because you guys, you take things too far. You're gonna end up changing this religion, creating something totally unrecognizable, which is the way it was going. It was really headed in that direction. They say the opposition to Hasidism, perhaps in particular by the Vilna Gaon, is what saved it. It roped them in a little bit more. I think each community has contributed to the other to the point that, other than maybe the way we dress, between the yeshiva world and the Hasidic world, there's almost no distinction anymore in terms of philosophy. We each borrowed from each other very heavily. So now it's just, if anybody fights, it's just for the sake of fighting. There's ahava and there's yira. Each one needs the other. you can't have one without the other.